Hello and welcome to your next episode. I'm Louise Daniels and I'm here with Amy. Hello. How was you? How are your New Year's resolutions?
Well,
going?
do you know what, Lou? My New Year's resolution was to not be on my phone every 20 to 30 seconds. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how that's working out because we are here in December.
Yeah, we have to record this early because Amy's going on holiday.
I'm going away. Let's have a little peek behind the velvet curtain here. This is how that's working out. I'm going up to the Lake District with my family, and that means I'm going to miss you going to speak to Sober Dave.
Yeah. Dave Wilson, and he's known on Instagram as Sober Dave. Yeah.
Which it is a bit of a subject close to my heart because, as we were talking about before, I've not had a drink for 14 months, and oh, look at me being really smug and self-righteous saying that.
No, you're not. You're just announcing it.
Yeah, I'm just sort of announcing it,
just making the rest of us feel bad.
Yeah, that was the main aim of doing it, just to make everyone else feel shit about drinking. I stopped drinking. I did Stoptober in 2018. Is that right? 19. Yes. Yeah. So we're in 2019. Yeah. But no, we're in 2020.
It's going out in 2020. Just getting
chronology is it's all right. It doesn't take much, does it, to throw us? It's not like one day at a time for me. I mean, I had a lot. I had a lot to drink in the 90s and lots of other things as well. But I think that for me, it was just, I'm a bit of a control freak. And for me, I was just finding that waking up at sort of 5:30 with my 3-4-year-old, I couldn't do those mornings anymore. No. I just couldn't do it anymore. And yeah, just sort of, it wasn't difficult to do Stoptober. And it really wasn't difficult to just not start drinking again. Yeah. But the thing that is difficult, and you will no doubt get into this with him, with Sober Dave, it's not the not drinking that's difficult. It's the feeling stuff. You know, we tend to kind of just smudge those. Just take the edge off. Take the edge off. Absolutely. You know, oh, today's been shit. Let's have a drink. Today was great. We won that contract. Let's have a drink. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And that is part of our culture, and it's part of our the society. I think. And sometimes there've been times where it would have been easier for me to say to people, I almost had my children taken off me, like social services were involved, and that's why I don't drink. You know, rather than the thing of sort of like, I just don't fancy a drink. So I think sometimes the thing is actually it's more in my mind that I think everyone else is concerned with whether I'm drinking or not. Yeah. And that's part of a process of just thinking, nobody gives a shit. No. Really? No. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's... Yeah. What about you? What's your... relationship?
My relationship with booze. Yeah. I don't tend to drink during the week because I have to get up at 6 and I just find that I can't function very well. But I really like to drink at the weekends, and I probably have far too much at the weekends as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's one of those things, and I think we've exchanged a few messages about this when, you know, you get that beer blues and the beer fear the next day, but actually you'll know. You will just come to a decision. And I'm not saying you as in you, Louise. I'm just saying one. Yeah. One knows when one has had enough.
And just, absolutely.
And you just, I think it's, and actually I'm not saying that I would never
have a drink
again. No. It is just at this point. And the other thing I was saying before, we do all of our gold material off the mic. Like we sit and have a chat beforehand. It's like, well, let's save all this. I was saying that actually it's serendipitous that I've stopped drinking and then I've had this real productive, creative flow and surge
with all your stand-up
and energy to do stuff, and also coming back on the train at night, sometimes on that Stella Artois train, you know, like if I don't have my wits about me, then I can't film people falling over on my Instagram stories. Do you know what I mean? Like I need to be compos mentis so that I mean from a safety point of view and being able to drive to gigs and stuff like that. And there is a lot of alcoholism in comedy. I've noticed that. I mean, you know, I think it takes a bit of Dutch courage to get up there, but I'll be really interested to see what Dave's got to say about it.
Hiya.
Hello, I'm so excited to meet you in real life. I gave him a big hug when I met him, which must have been weird for him, but I feel like I just know him really
nice.
well. So a bit of background. Dave runs his own carpet company, and he's the handyman on over 200 episodes of the TV programme 60 Minute Makeover with Peter Andre.
That's right.
Yeah. He's dad to George, who's in his 20s, and married to Emma, who is known on Instagram as Limitless M. And over a 9-year period, she's been diagnosed with cancer 3 times, and most recently in 2019, last January. And you've been with her since her second diagnosis, which was before that.
Yeah.
And you're stepdad to her 4 children. She's got triplets who are 10 and a teenager.
Indeed.
Yeah, so that's a really busy household.
I know.
So I follow Em on Instagram, and that's how I came across you, Dave.
Yeah.
And Em's a blogger, speaker, and author of a book called All That Followed, a story of cancer, kids, and the fear of leaving too soon. And both of you talk really openly about cancer, sobriety, parenting, almost everything.
Pretty much everything.
Because actually all of that, I suppose, just affects your whole life.
It does, yeah.
So, and your honesty and your generosity in supporting others is what makes you both really loved by everybody that follows you. That's really clear from your Instagram feed and the comments that people make. And it seems like you're both very aware of what each other is going through, and you're a really strong unit, and that's very apparent through both of your Instagram feeds. And I really recommend following both Dave and Em, because they, for me, I think you kind of epitomise all the things that are really good about Instagram, and there's lots of things that aren't good about it. But I'm quite selective about who I follow, on Instagram, and you're a really sort of both of you, a really valuable source of information and education.
That's a fabulous testimonial.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
But our discussion today is going to be around dry January and sobriety, or also moderation when it comes to alcohol, because the feeling I get from you is you're not just all about people have got to stop drinking, but it's about thinking about it, not just
being more mindful about it.
Being
maybe,
mindful, absolutely mindful about your drinking.
Yeah.
Because what I've noticed, I think, is I was chatting to my friend about it the other day, and I was saying, we've just kind of got into a bit of a habit of, like, weekends, what we're doing, we'll just get really drunk. Friday or Saturday night, or maybe both, without even thinking about it, and not having to think. We don't think about, should we do something? We just sort of get together and have wine, and have too much wine, really.
Yeah.
For those embarking on dry January, it might be that after a December of excess, the first few days might not be too hard to lay off the booze, but then a week or so in, when we're all feeling much better and healthier and more alert, and then forgetting that sort of jaded feeling after a night of drinking, that's why I thought it would be good to broadcast this just a little bit, rather than doing it
midway.
Right. Yes, absolutely, yeah. You're in your mid-50s,
Yeah.
Dave, is that right? And when you got together with Em, you were heavily drinking already, weren't you? And had been for a while.
Yeah. I was heavily drinking. She didn't really know that.
No.
And when you've got a drink dependency, like I had, you tend to hide it as well, because you're a bit embarrassed about it. You don't come out and say, hey, you know what? I'm really well, but I'm a chronic alcoholic.
But did you think that you were at the time? Did you think you had it under control at that point?
No, not at all. No.
You kind of knew that it was a problem.
Oh, I knew it was a problem. And because I lived on my own when we met each other, I could go home and I could down the alcohol without already knowing. And I used to make excuses up and say, do you know what? We've had a good old chat now. I might watch a film tonight. Let's talk tomorrow. Because I knew by 9 o'clock I wouldn't be able to have a normal conversation. I'd be slurring. And I didn't want her to know that.
No.
So I used to make all these excuses up. And then that was it. My evening was free, feet up. Yeah. And I was heavily into spirits as well by then.
Right.
So I used to get blotto every night.
Did you ever drink during the day?
Only at weekends, It was a weird thing for me, because when you talk to people with drink dependency, we've got all different routines. You know, I've heard of some people that have downed a glass of wine they left from the night before on the way to work. They've seen it on the table, they pick it up, down it, and then get on the bus.
Yeah.
But for me, it wasn't like that. I was a functioning drinker.
Yeah.
So I was mindful that I couldn't talk to customers after a drink and that. But if I had a day off, I might start maybe 3:00 in the afternoon. Weekends, the old excuse, the football's on. Sunday was the big one because I used to have a lock-in at home and start drinking at midday because the pubs open at midday. Yeah. So my excuse was, well, the pubs were open.
Well, it's acceptable.
2 rounds of football on, 1:00, 4:00, have a little sleep, wake up, start again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I did have my set routine.
Yeah.
But I found it escalated through the years. So it started with the weaker lagers when I was younger, then the Stellas and the Peronis and whatever. And then I lived on my own for a long time and I become a bit of a recluse. So I never used to go out. I used to go Friday to the supermarket, stock up for the whole weekend and emerge Monday morning looking like absolute crap.
So you weren't like a partying?
No, not at all.
Very much solitude.
Recluse,
yeah,
really.
Yeah, solitary.
You know, and I just used to slip away into my own world, and that is what I really enjoy doing. So the narrative between that life to meeting Em when she's got 4 kids running around, and you know, when I eventually moved in, it was a real blow, like a real shock to the system of how am I going to manage this? You know? Did
you tell her before you moved in? Because she wasn't aware while you weren't living with her. And
well, good old Dave blundered in right at the end. You know, like it was a week before.
Yeah.
And we were sitting at the dinner table at my house, and I said, I've got to tell you something. And she looked horrified, and you know, I said, I think I'm a functioning alcoholic. And you imagine for her.
Yeah.
She lived on her own for a long time. She knew where she was with the discipline with the kids and that. All of a sudden, the man who sold his house and is moving into her house is declared as a functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
And it didn't really go down that well.
No.
But I honestly thought I could control it before I moved in. But I just used to make excuses all the time. And it would be like, oh, I'll sort it out next week. Or, you know, oh, I'll be all right, I can handle it. But by the time I moved in, I really struggled, you know, massively.
Because you couldn't just at the end of the day come in and shut the door and...
No, and I was accountable then, you know, like I used to say to Emma, oh, should we have a glass of wine tonight? She went, oh, really? Because it wasn't part of her routine, you know. She might have a glass at the weekend, but for me it's like, what am I going to do? There's all these kids jumping all over each other and there's me dying for a drink. And it was a real, you know, I was laying in bed staring at the ceiling thinking, well, this is my life now. I can't escape into the bottle because, but the thing is, when you've got this dependency, you become really clever. So I worked out techniques over the few weeks after that to incorporate into our lives and that. And I suppose the worst thing was that she became a heavier drinker, really. Because we used to drink.
You were sort of encouraging her, come on,
let's have a
drink.
Should we pop out tonight? We can have a drink and stuff like that. So it was a real challenge the first few months, really.
So had you ever thought about giving up alcohol completely before that? Had you ever tried it? Had you ever, you know?
I did a dry Jan a few years ago. And I lasted till about the 21st, but I was younger and my social life was flying. I didn't have a partner. And you know what? I just thought, what's the point of this? I'm only going to binge in February anyway.
Well, you're not accountable to anybody.
Exactly, and that's what it was. And I didn't have the same mindset as I did last year, really. And my health was better, you know. I think I was in my mid-30s, but 20 years on, after drinking every day, you realise how bad your health is. I mean, my blood pressure was in a diabolical state. I was put on immediate medication when I had a blood pressure test, and there were lots of little warning signs that made me think, do you know what, I've got to think about this.
And that's what I was saying earlier about how it seems to be something that is. So I'm 50, and so my friends are sort of like 45 to up to 60 and beyond, and it's this time where and it's something we weren't thinking about. And I was probably drinking more when I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
Didn't give it a second thought.
No.
I was absolutely, fine. It wouldn't have occurred to me that I shouldn't be or to be worried about it at all. But now it seems. So, do you think that is that slightly sort of starting to notice health things? And
I think visually, you look in the mirror and you think, God, I'm not aging well. And I had a thing. I mean, I put on a lot of weight,
right?
Because I was basically sitting about just drinking at home all the time.
Loads of calories.
Yeah, they're empty calories because they're above what you're eating. And I used to bend over to do my shoes up and I'd be out of breath because I couldn't do it. I was wheezing like an old man. And there was another time that I went to the gym and they got these machines that they can monitor your estimated age. Mm-hmm. And so I printed out the ticket at the end thinking, well, I'm quite a fit, healthy bloke, really, fooling myself. It said 79 years old.
No. Oh my
and I was
God.
53 or something like that.
God. So I think is January the 7th your 1 year anniversary of being sober. Good. So how do you feel about that? Because that's in a few days. That's looming. Is it a huge milestone for you emotionally? Is it? How do you? I just wondered how you feel.
Can I just stand up and scream? That's how it feels to me.
With joy?
Joy, absolute pure. I cannot tell you how much that means to me.
Wow, yeah.
And I will say I'm so proud of myself because I never ever thought I'd be able to do it. I started off as a 3-month challenge, not dry January. A friend said to me, he knew the situation I was in at home, and he obviously saw how I looked because I wasn't looking my best. And I got a random text saying, how do you feel about giving up alcohol 3 months, see where you are in your marriage, your health and your general life? And I had a hangover when I read it, and I just threw the phone down and burst out laughing. 3 months, I can't even go up for 3 days,
Yeah.
But that trickled in throughout the day. And by that evening, it was like a spiritual awakening. I thought, do you know what? I wonder how I would be in 3 months. And I went to see him. Now, that's the thing. If he wasn't in, I don't know where I'd be now.
I'd like to just think about, people who are listening and all the triggers for drinking that might be problematic for them. So everyone's got different triggers. I imagine that when that voice in your head starts suggesting that a couple of drinks will be fine because it's someone's birthday or it's the weekend, that voice presumably can be very convincing. And I'm imagining perhaps similar for everyone, and you must have had those moments where, how do you keep track on those mental conversations that you have with yourself in those moments when you're. Do you have that voice saying,
I've had that.
Come on,
I basically throw a tantrum with myself. I think the first time we had quite early spring and it was hot, and where I live, Wandsworth Common, you normally get a lot of people that put the picnic blankets out, and it's all proper picnics, champagne and crystal glasses and that. And I was walking my little chihuahua and I saw these people drinking, and it was like 1 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and it really hit me. I thought, this was late April or something like that. So I was 3.5, 4 months or whatever. And the first 3 months, I think I got my head down and I thought, right, this is a new
winter.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
But then
so
you say it's winter, but then there's red wine bonfire in the pub. There's always something,
I know, but it's more in your face, isn't it, when the weather starts getting nice?
Well, it was the fact that everyone was relaxing, and you associate that with drinking, don't you? I've worked hard all week. I'm going to have a nice glass of wine or champagne. The kiddies are over there playing with the football and that. And I saw this, and I just basically went off at a tangent across the common. And then I saw the pub with the pub garden heaving and that. And I literally was swearing out loud, what is this bullshit and whatever. But I went for a long walk, And then I had a good talk to myself, and I thought, this is a lifestyle change here. You've got to get over this. You're not going to sail through this at all.
Yeah.
This is a challenge you're going to come up with against many, many, many times. And after an hour or so, I was okay.
Yeah.
But I can see how easy it may be to just slip there, because you can just say, do you know what, sod it. The wine witch in your ear hole saying, have a glass of wine, have a glass of wine, or the beer monster, It's a year now, and I've gone through everything.
Yes.
I've ticked so many boxes, apart from a wedding. Right? So I've gone through the whole lot, and I've forced myself as well. I've gone away on my own. I went to Brighton for 3 nights, right at the beginning, and they had a bloody beer festival on there for 3 days.
Oh my God.
And I was literally walking along the promenade, and there was all these people with tankards of beer and whatever, but it was my way of dealing with it. So my way of looking at it was by staring it straight in the eyes, that's how I dealt with it.
So what about friends? Because that's something that's a real struggle for many people, because their socialising with their mates revolves around drinking.
Yeah.
So have you found that some friends have fallen by the wayside? How does it work if your friends still like to drink and you're not anymore?
Because I was such a big drinker, the friends that I've got, I think on some level, and if they're listening to this, they might not agree, but because I don't drink now, it triggers their issue with drink, because I don't get invited anywhere anymore.
Right.
By my drinking friends.
Right.
Now, the non-drinking friends, my social life has never been so busy. But yeah, it used to be, oh, Dave, I'll meet you after work for a few beers and whatever, and that's stopped now.
Because they think, there's no point because he's not drinking.
Maybe, or because they can't feel so relaxed drinking if I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
I'd imagine that if when I was drinking and I was with someone having 1 Coke in an hour and I've had 4 or 5 pints of Peroni.
It's going to make you feel a bit...
Yeah, I think it would make me feel awkward and whatever. So I probably think, I'd rather not invite him.
Yeah. What support did you get, or did you just do it by yourself? Have you been going to AA or had counselling? Or
I tried AA. I got stuck into self-care. I went on a mindful retreat in Devon. That was wonderful. 4 days. Of no mobile phones, laptops, anything. And
did you go by yourself?
Yeah.
And did you ever done anything like that before? No, it wasn't like your usual thing.
It was unbelievable, because it really made you reflect on things, know. And I came back from that, and that's when Em was re-diagnosed. Right. I met her at the Marsden on the Monday, so it's a real come down, and she was re-diagnosed. But for me, that could have been a time for me to think, I cannot give up drinking now. I just can't. But I thought of it the other way around. I thought, she needs my support here.
Right.
I need to be present here. Because of course, when I met her, she was diagnosed. Yeah. And I was still drinking heavily, so I numbed everything out. So and that was a turning point for us as well, because when you give up drinking, you feel everything. All your emotions come out, because before you'd numb them before. So all of a sudden it's like, what is this? How am I going to deal with this? Before it'd be, I just get drunk and it'd go away.
So your Instagram feed, on your feed, your stories and on your posts, you voice exactly how you feel on a daily basis, more or less.
Yes.
And of course that fluctuates. Sometimes you're feeling strong and positive, but you also share those moments when you're, maybe having a bit of doubt or weakness, or finding it difficult. And the responses I see from people, for whom it obviously really reminds them that they're not alone.
Yes.
And that is, you can just tell that people really appreciate that, and it means a huge amount to them. And presumably that helps you too, does it? Was part of it sort of going, right, I'm going to be really public about this?
100%. And I think I try to make my Instagram as authentic as I can, but as real as I can, because I'm not going to be this person who's, oh my God, my life's amazing and it's the best thing you can do, because there are some terrible times that I've been through, and I want to tell people about that so they feel like they can relate to it. And I'm not this sober machine that can go through and everyone thinks, oh my God, he's invincible, because I'm not.
No.
And even now, after a year, I might have a couple of hours that I think, do you know what? I could absolutely muller a cold pint. I could really do it. But I think the longer you go on, the more you get used to feeling like that, so you brush it off quicker.
Right.
But I'm real, I'm a human being that I still have emotions about, at Christmas we went for a meal in a pub, and the pub was literally full of people, red wine and beers and that, and I sat there with my lime and soda and thinking, I'm envious.
Yeah.
I'm jealous, the fear of missing out thing, but then I remind myself of how far I've come and what I've achieved and what I've got ahead. That's exciting. But I couldn't wait for the chimes at 12 to come. So I think, right, 2020 is a new year, but a new decade. Yeah. I'm so excited about what's ahead for me, and I hope to include others in that as well.
Yeah. Well, that brings me on to my next question, which is, you're so generous with your time, and you spend time, responding and supporting others, on their path to sobriety or just moderation when it comes to alcohol. And I know you've held sober socials in 2019, and you're starting a recovery mentoring course too. Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about that and about your plans for the things you've got planned for 2020?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I was invited to observe at a recovery meeting, and I didn't really know what to expect. And when I left there, well, actually at the end, I put my hand up and said, can I say something? And I said, I feel incredibly emotional for what I've just witnessed. Real people that have expressed real hard emotions of their hourly battle to not have drugs or to not pick up the bottle in the morning. And I almost nearly cried talking about it. And I went to another one and people were coming up to me and saying, oh, hi, Dave, thanks for coming in. And Chris, who runs it, that day he said, look, I want to train you to become a mentor. And I held my arms out and said, yes, please. I really feel like this is a possible future for me to properly help others as a professional, I'm on a panel at the Mindful Drinking Festival on the 18th and 19th of January. If anyone's doing dry January or thinking about being more mindful or giving up, that's an amazing festival to go to. Join Club Soda on Instagram is the link. They have that, but there's over 10,000 people that go through the doors, and they got lots of panel talks with some real amazing people there. And it's 2 days. It's a Saturday and Sunday. So I'm talking about sober holidays, because I had one. Me and Em, we won one on the Lorraine show.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and we had this really posh villa in the mountains, and that was my first sober holiday. And I wasn't panicking, didn't know what to expect, but it ended up the most incredible experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because I suppose, holidays, you would think, oh, well, it's not going to be much fun if I can't have a drink.
Well, yeah, but part of me for the holiday was so I could drink even more.
Yeah.
But I would wake up early and I would get in the infinity pool at 5:30 in the morning and watch the sun come up. And it was dead quiet. And to watch that come up on the horizon, sober, no hangover, was the real amazing experience for me.
Wow.
Exciting news is that me and Em, we're thinking about collaborating to do an event together.
Yeah, that would be great.
To talk about mental health issues, recovery. And that's interesting because me and Em were talking the other day about recovery. You immediately assume it's to do with alcohol, but she's recovering from cancer. 3 times in 10 years. So there's a big discussion there.
And for Em, I suppose that there's a lot of focus on the physical recovery for her.
Yeah.
But of course there's that emotional, mental journey and I mean, that's huge, isn't it? Yeah,
it's massive. And the physical recovery for Em is just ridiculous, because she had part of her lung removed a few months ago, and then she had a mastectomy. And she said to her doctor, when can I start running again? And he said, well, I'd leave it a month. And literally the day of that month after, she was out and she did a 5K.
Wow.
And she's doing the marathon in April.
Is she?
Yeah, and she's incredible.
Wow.
She's a real
She is
warrior.
incredible, yeah.
Absolutely. But the emotional side is another matter.
This episode is going to go out on, I think it's the 13th, which is sort of midway through January. Have you got any sort of tips or ideas for people who might be sort of wavering at this point and thinking, I've done a couple of weeks? Do you see a lot of that on with people that are interacting with you?
I get people that message me and they say, do you know what, I'm beginning to struggle a little bit and I don't think I can do this much longer and that. And I say, well, look, you've done 2 weeks now. Try and change the dialogue to, I still think I can do this. I'm just having a little bit of a waver. But all I can say is the benefits will be towards the end of the month is you are going to sleep better. Your skin's going to look better because you've got rid of the toxins. There are a million benefits. You're going to have more money. Your social life, you can still go out and be careful what you drink. But just try and be positive. And I think by the time you get to the end of the month, when it comes to February, you're going to feel a lot more encouraged to think about your drinking and think, do you know what? I actually feel great now.
Yeah.
I've had a month off. I'm not going to start drinking in a week, or I might just have one glass of wine, or I'm going to stop altogether. I think it's really important to do the 31 days and to see how you feel after that. And definitely not binge. On the 1st of February, because that just, your body will go into some shock and be like, what the hell is this, If in that time you feel uncomfortable about a situation or an event, just don't go.
Just don't go. Yeah, you said that the other day. I saw on Instagram.
It's all about self-care.
Yeah.
Think, do you know what? If I go, I could jeopardise what I've done already. I'm feeling a little bit weak now. Don't go. Have an early night, hot bath, cup of cocoa and read a book in bed. And then in the morning you wake up thinking, I'm really glad I didn't go to that.
Yeah, of course you will. Cause it's
and if your friends are real, they'll understand.
Finally, I have a question that I always ask guests who are at sort of the midlife stage, which is, what is great about this stage of your life?
In general, or because I've given up drinking, or all of it?
Well, I suppose it's all tied in, isn't it? But I mean, it's the reason I ask is because I think being, hitting your late 40s, going into your 50s isn't portrayed particularly well in the media. It's sort of like, you're getting away. But actually, when I ask people, it's a time of sort of enlightenment, I think, and a transitional time for many people in great ways.
It is, because for me, I met Em when I was 50.
Right.
And she really is the love of my life. She's incredible. She's my best friend. And I don't want that to sound like a cliche.
No.
She really, really is.
And that really shines through, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Well, when we met... she had been diagnosed a day before our first date, and she told me the night before that she's got cancer. And we met each other on a Saturday, and she said, look, you can just walk away because it's not fair on you. And when she went home, I just sat there and thought, you know what, there was a real connection there. And I thought, well, what am I meant to do with this? And it was a few days later that we were in the chemo ward, and that's how we got to know each other.
So I'm going to put links in the show notes with Dave and Em's details, and also for other sources of support and those things that you talked about that you've got coming up and where you're going to be speaking. So thank you so much, Dave, for sharing your story today and for doing so every day on social media.
It's my pleasure, honestly. Thank you.
Made by darkhorse digital.co.uk. Shooting, live streaming and podcast